Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about how dating is a game and how you can win it. So when I say game, I think a lot of people come to the assumption of mind games, of kind of like this underlying nastiness and meanness when you hear like about, games and playing games and stuff like that. But the way that I interpret games and the way that I've seen the term, games used in dating is usually when, two people get together and they start dating, there's usually one that likes the other more than the other. That's kind of how things usually play out. The thing is that it's uncommon to find a couple that are 50-50, both interested in each other at the same exact level. There's usually one that's more into the other. And basically, the one that's more enthusiastic at the beginning of the courtship needs to kind of rein in their enthusiasm, right? So that's kind of like the game that you need to play. Like if you're the one who always seems to fall in love first, if you're the one that kind of wears their heart on their sleeve most, then you kind of need to rein that in order to successfully date that person. Because if you come on too strong, basically, essentially, that could cause a lot of problems. And, it could be the case that this person might lose interest in you if you become too enthusiastic about them too soon. So the idea is that you need to rein in your enthusiasm until the other person starts displaying the same level of kind of enthusiasm, because we all fall in love at different rates. Just because they don't like you at the same level straight away as what you do about them doesn't mean that they won't eventually get to that point. Some people just need a little bit more time to warm up to other people. That's just how it goes. Like some people, you can instantly have a connection with someone, and sometimes it takes the other person a bit longer. Now, it might be the case that you meet someone, you go on a date with someone, and you're joined at the hip straight away. Those occasions are very rare, but they're obviously really beautiful when they do happen. But most of the time, most people that you come into contact with, they're going to fall in love a lot slower, and they're going to get comfortable with you a lot slower than, these kind of like rare people that you sometimes meet where you're joined at the hip instantly. So learning how to rein in your enthusiasm is the key here to winning the game of dating. It's basically, letting the other person show how they feel about you first, and then kind of like letting them in a way take the lead on the romance. But of course, because when I say take the lead, I don't mean that they need to be the more masculine one. So let's say you're a heterosexual male watching this and you're dating a woman. Obviously, leadership roles are a little bit, they can be quite complex. And usually you would think it's usually the male that's in charge, and usually that's how it plays out anyway. But the thing is with that is you can't really force someone to feel something more for you when they're not ready to, when they haven't yet got to that place. So you're kind of reading off their cues, and reading how into you they are. So if you start dating someone, for example, and she starts sending you more messages after 2 weeks of dating, you know that she is getting more interested in you. So it's being very acutely aware of these cues. And then you know that you can probably be a little bit more relaxed and show your cards a little bit more and show your interest a bit more once she starts showing her interest. So that's what I kind of mean by leadership. You're letting her, for example, warm up to you, right? And you're letting her have the ability to start feeling those feelings for you by reining in your own enthusiasm, so you don't spoil it, basically. So, it could be the case that you don't want to be with someone like that. Maybe you do want to be with someone who likes, you immediately and you're joined at the hip immediately. But like I said, those occasions are very rare. So you do need to have this kind of little game that you're playing where you just are allowing them to grow their attraction for you by you not being as enthusiastic and, leaving space between text messages, not messaging them all the time, not responding straight away. It's all about allowing their feelings to grow. And you can't let someone's feelings grow about you. Their feelings cannot blossom if you're always in their DMs and you're always talking to them and you're in constant contact with each other. You need, at the beginning of a relationship, at the beginning of a courtship, you need space away from each other so you can both actually think about the relationship and think if this person's for you. It's very difficult to do that when you're always talking to each other, when you're always in constant contact. You need a bit of space in between dates. But this period where you're kind of playing this little game, shall we say, is only like the first couple of months. It's not a very long time if this person is actually interested in you. So you just kind of need to just keep your cards close to your chest. And if you really, really like them, especially if you really, really like them and you're really enthusiastic about them and you're falling in love with them fast, you really need to rein in that self-control, emotional self-control, and not be saying things like, I love you too soon, asking for a relationship too soon. You got to just kind of, the idea is when you start dating someone, it has to be kind of casual at first, right? And none of you are really talking about feelings, and none of you are talking about relationships and being in a relationship with each other. You kind of have to wait for her or whoever it is that's less enthusiastic to start bringing up those things first. And if you know you're the one that falls in love too fast, and I've completely been there before, I'm totally that person. I fall in love really, really fast. So you have to be the one that kind of reins it in and waits for their cues, right? And playing the game, then, being in this game, is actually a very thoughtful thing to do. It's a very nice thing to do for someone. It's not something that's supposed to be manipulative. It's supposed to allow them time for their feelings to grow by you just reining it in and holding back off and seeing what happens. And not being too enthusiastic, because I see a lot of people go wrong where they try and get into a relationship with someone straight away who simply isn't ready. And it doesn't mean that they don't want to be in a relationship with you. It doesn't mean that they won't be in a relationship with you. It just means that it's going to take them a little bit more time to warm up to you. That's all that it means. And sometimes, people can be a bit, I wouldn't say hot and cold, but sometimes their feelings for you can be really intense, and then other times they kind of back off a bit and it's not as intense. And sometimes this can scare a lot of people because they think, oh no, they've lost interest in me. We were joined at the hip last week and now they're not speaking to me as much. Don't take those kinds of things to heart too much, especially if it's just the first, couple of months of dating each other. Sometimes they're enthusiastic, sometimes they're a little less enthusiastic. Now, of course, that if it's someone who's hot and cold, like sometimes they message you and sometimes they're not interested in you at all, then you're probably dealing with someone who's probably not that interested in you. But if it's someone who's enthusiastic one week, but is still, talking to you, still seems positive around you, but they're just not as passionate towards you that week, it could be that they're just having an off week. It could be just that they're just not feeling right, or it could be that they're going through some stuff that they don't really want to talk about. So you shouldn't take those things too seriously. But the idea is, fundamentally, if you want to win the game of dating, is you need to give them a lot more time and space, and give it a lot of time to develop those feelings for you, especially if you do find yourself the one that falls in love first. And there's nothing wrong with you falling in love first. What I would say, though, if you are someone who kind of wants to be someone who doesn't fall in love so quick, and that is to become a lot more skeptical of the people that you go on dates with, especially if you do find yourself falling in love really fast. Usually with this kind of thing, it's usually people that are more looks orientated, because that's what I found. Like, if I went on a date with a beautiful woman, I'd be like, oh my God, she's amazing. I love her so much, because she's so pretty. And it's very easy to fall into that trap, but you need to become more skeptical. It doesn't mean that you're critical of them. It doesn't mean that you're, kind of going to a date like as in like an interrogator or something like that. You're still having a relaxed, fun time when you go on a date. It's just that you kind of question your feelings, basically. Like, am I actually in love, or do I just really like the look of them? And do I just like what I see right now? Because what you need to remember when you go on a date, right, and this is really, really important, so please pay attention, and that is, you don't know what it's like to live with them yet, right? You don't know what it's going to be like to be with them when you have money issues. You don't know what it's going to be like when you're sick, or they're sick, how they're going to handle the relationship, how they're going to handle the household duties, or how you're going to handle the household duties, and how they're going to react to you and how you're going to react to them when you're living together. So don't fall in love too fast. When you're with someone, you don't really know what it's like to be around them, because you don't know what it's like to be around them when there's financial issues. You don't know what it's like to be around them when there's a tragedy in the family, and you don't know what it's like to live with them. You might be someone who's really organized and tidy, and they might be a complete slob, and that might totally put you off of them when you start, spending more and more time together. So you need to, give yourself a lot of time basically to get to know this person, and become that little bit more skeptical. And if you just play it cool, especially if you're the one who falls in love fast, and you just give them that time and space to develop the same feelings that you have for them. And again, remaining remaining skeptical about them, being a bit, trying not to, reining in basically your emotional enthusiasm and having a more emotional self-control. So one of the big problems that I had as a teenager, and if you're a follower of me, you probably would have heard me say this a couple of times, but I would fall in love really quickly, and I would go from 0 to 100, right? And it's basically, if you want to win the game of dating, then you can't go from a 0 to 100. And basically that means saying that you really, really like someone immediately, or saying that you're in love with them immediately, being too emotional too soon when you can tell the other person isn't ready. And usually you can tell if the other person isn't ready by your own intuitive sense. You can tell if someone doesn't like you as much as what you like them. They're kind of a bit, you can just tell by their body language and the way that they speak to you. You obviously want to have an emotional conversation about them, say lovey-dovey things, and they're not doing that kind of thing yet, right? And if they're not doing that kind of thing yet, and you can tell that they're not going to start doing that thing yet and start saying these kinds of things soon, then you need to hold off. And it's all about backing off. And it's not a nasty manipulative thing to do. It's actually a very caring and considerate thing to do, because you're giving them time and space for their feelings to develop, and you're not trying to force things and rush things. Playing the game is not manipulative, unless you are being manipulative, of course. Some people do play mind games in dating. But if you're doing it the right way, which is the kind way, the loving way to do it, you're just giving them space for time and for their relationship, for their feelings for you to develop, right? For the relationship to develop. You're giving them time, space. You're courting each other. You're not in each other's DMs every moment of every day. You're playing it cool. So their feelings can develop. So this all comes from basically your intentions. Like, if your intentions are good, then that's great. But if your intentions are manipulative, then obviously you are playing a more darker game, and it's not one that I condone at all. The right game is just being very considerate to the other person's feelings, understanding that they're not at the same level yet, and giving them time and space to develop those feelings. It's a kind game. It's not a manipulative one. So thank you so much for watching. If you would like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Also, if you have purchased coaching with me recently, please make sure that you check your spam folder for your confirmation emails, and also your emails actually from me, because when you do purchase coaching from me, I do get notified, and I try to get in contact with you ASAP. And I, explain basically what's going on and what I need from you in order to further the coaching. So please make sure that you check your spam folder, because I've had payments not been confirmed by the client. So make sure that you do that. Make sure you check your spam folder. So thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.